Hey guys, this is Two Kids in a Trench Coat, a football podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Jacob Rosenfarb.
I'm your other host, Ryan Sharp.
And I'm the producer, Josh Zacklis.
So we have returned from winter break. We're settled into the spring semester. Just wrapped up a weekend of playoff football. Two of our teams made it to the divisional round. The last one didn't make the playoffs. And a rather disappointing finish to the season. We'll talk about that later, though. For now, though, I guess we can talk a little bit about the games that just happened over the weekend.
Makes sense. I think we should want to start chronologically. Start first game of the weekend. Chiefs beating down the Colts 31-13. What were your big takeaways from that one, Sharp?
I honestly thought this game would have been a little closer. Not so much where the Colts had a true chance of winning it, but I didn't think it would get out of control before halftime like it did.
Yeah, I just did not anticipate this sort of performance from the Chiefs defense. Like the fact that the Colts had no first downs, I think, going into the half, or maybe one. Like all of their yardage came on that final drive in the first half. It was just strange, if I'm going to be honest. Going into this game, I thought this was going to be a shootout. I thought Marlon Mack was going to run all over this historically bad Chiefs defense, and that was just not the case.
Yeah, I'm not sure where it came from, but you have this Chiefs defense who has just notably struggled all season holding the guy that threw 39 touchdown passes, 13 points for a game, and 7 of those were on special teams.
Yeah.
So.
It was an incredibly impressive performance.
Yep.
And I still don't really know. They got fantastic penetration from their defensive line. Like Chris Jones has been a monster all season. He played out of his mind. Like they have that's the whole point of this Chiefs defense. It's like they just need 2 plays a game. Like they're banking on their offense putting up at least 30, and so they're thinking, okay, if we get 2 turnovers in this game, we can hold them.
Then they use the points from that to build enough separation that the other team is never really in it.
So they don't need a defense that's gonna consistently force 3 and outs, but that's what they got. They were impressive. They were quick off the ball. The secondary was elite. Like it was an otherworldly performance from, like I was saying, like a historically like this. Like statistically, they allowed the most first downs I think in NFL history. Like they gave up like 6 yards a carry. Like it was just, this is not a good unit, and they made the Colts, who were a top 10 offensive unit all season, look like the Jags. It was bad.
Yeah, or the Colts when they played the Jags. What was the final of that game? Like 6-3?
Wasn't that 6-0? Well, I'm pretty sure the Colts got shut out in that game.
Yeah, but that's kind of what they looked like. I guess slightly better because they scored this time.
Yeah, really.
Something that I noticed about the Chiefs, I don't want to say it was an off week from Patrick Mahomes, but they definitely relied on his arm a lot less than I thought they were going to in this game. Good job of spreading the ball around on the ground. Kareem Hunt, Mahomes, and was it Spencer Ware or Damian Williams had touchdowns on the ground.
They did. Not Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt's been gone for a while. But Damian Williams got a score. Darrell Williams, the oft-used Darrell Williams, got a Patrick Mahomes. No throwing touchdowns, but stretched out and got one. I want to say late in the third quarter. So it was a complete running domination from the Chiefs. But if I told you pregame that Patrick Mahomes didn't throw for a touchdown, what would you have thought coming in? What would you have thought this game played out?
I doubt the Chiefs would have, or I would have doubt that the Chiefs would have won this game, at least, like this. I could have seen it being 2017, maybe something like that. But it just seems like when Patrick Mahomes is off, then the entire team is off. But the way they were able to move the ball on the ground this weekend, that killed a lot of doubt for me going into this weekend against the Patriots. We'll hit on that a little bit later. But it was definitely reassuring seeing them being able to move the ball on the ground like that.
Yeah, I think they showed an offensive versatility that I think they had been lacking since Hunt was released. I think it took some adjustment period. I think they were. I was certainly not as bullish on Damian Williams as a lot of people were. I think there was some sentiment that you can just slot whoever you need in there. Kareem Hunt's talented, but his skills aren't otherworldly, and we'll be able to just slot the next guy in. And I don't think that was true for the last couple of weeks of the season. But they clearly used this bye week and all that extra practice time to really incorporate Williams in the lineup. But 25 carries for 129 yards and a touchdown. I mean, that's impressive numbers,
especially for the playoffs.
Especially against a defense that's been solid all year. I mean, Darius Leonard we can't stop praising him on this podcast. He's been otherworldly. He should all pro talent. He's led the league in tackles and the Chiefs effectively took him out of the game. Like they did whatever they wanted on Saturday, and that was to me the most impressive part of this.
Yep. That's despite a couple, I don't want to say crucial holding penalties from former first overall pick Eric Fisher, but there were times he moved them backwards, more than once, and no problems overcoming that. I think that's super important, especially in the playoffs, the ability to overcome your slip-ups very quickly. Ideally, you don't have any of those holding penalties, but they were able to move past them. I think that's a real good thing for them.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. This was an all-around amazing showing from the Chiefs. Do you think we learned anything about the Colts, though? What do you think? How do you think the Colts rebound next season after kind of an embarrassing playoff loss?
I think they come back fairly strong just based off what we saw this year. I know, at least for some people, there's a lot of doubt surrounding how healthy Andrew Luck's shoulder really was. He was placing the ball perfectly all season. I just think he lacked a little bit of the speed on the ball that we had seen from him before. Obviously, it didn't affect the Colts too much, but I think if that's something, he gets another offseason to rest it and rehab it, we'll see maybe not a better Andrew Luck, but a more versatile Andrew Luck moving into the 2019 season. I think the biggest thing for them is just being able to hang in with the Texans.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think the Texans are the clear sort of Phoenix in that group. Like they are the team that is on the rise of that foursome. And so yeah, the Colts, but they've done such a fantastic job drafting, and Chris Ballard there deserves all the praises in the world because they really have compiled a team around Andrew Luck that he's just never had before. I mean, it felt like the first couple years of Andrew Luck's career, the only talking point was we have to get him an offensive line. Like, the offensive line was so bad around him.
And then they did it, and they nailed it.
Exactly, and then they got it perfect. They got Ryan Kelly and Quentin Nelson in back-to-back draft, or 2 out of 3 drafts. Sorry, like that's really impressive. They have built through free agency. They have kept their own guys in house. Like Costanzo, their left tackle, he's been a guy who's been there I feel like 8 years, and he's been quietly a great value for them, but now that he's part of an elite unit, you really get to see some of those talents shine. I think people may have gone a slight bit overboard in how great a job, not to contradict what I just said, but like I think this Chiefs game kind of did exploit some of the holes that maybe had been festering. Like, while I love the pickup of Dontrell Inman midseason by the Colts, if he's your number 2 wide receiver, I think you're lacking in true weapons. They relied a lot on Eric Ebron this season, which I'm not sure how consistent a plan that can be. So I'd love to see in this offseason maybe. I mean, they have the most cap space in the league, so I'd love to see them get some more weapons for Luck on the offensive side of the ball. And defensively, they need deep secondary players. They need true elite shutdown corners because that's how Patrick Mahomes picked them apart. Like they were willing to sit back in zone and let the ball come to them, and
that's just not how you win against the Chiefs.
It was real. Patrick Mahomes was able to do whatever he wanted, and that comes from a lack of elite talent. I think like they have Malik Hooker, and that's about it in the secondary. And so I think they need to get some playmakers on that side of the ball.
But yeah, you're not gonna beat a guy who threw 50 and 12, waiting for the ball to come to you.
Yeah. They weren't playing around with that. So no, the Colts' future to me is incredibly bright. Andrew Luck is obviously still one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league. Yep. To me, top 7.
I don't think he's even 30 yet. So
yeah, that might be. I could believe that. So yeah, he's they have a real good thing going in Indy, and it's kind of a shame it had to end this way. But
yeah, I would have loved to see the Colts play more football, but single elimination playoffs, it happens.
I think we have boiled it down to the 4 best teams.
I would agree with that.
Like you said, as much as I'd love to see the Colts playing more football, we kind of got it down. We kind of nailed it with these conference championships. But yeah, I think we've expunged this game enough. What do you think?
Yeah, I think we did. We can move into the Saturday evening game. You left for. I did.
I missed a fair amount of this game to see the Phoenix Suns defeat at the time the first place Denver Nuggets. But yeah, I don't think I missed. I probably missed the least compelling game of the weekend, if we're being honest.
Yeah, I would agree that you missed the least compelling game of the weekend. I don't know. Maybe I might walk back on that. Sorry to say.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, that okay.
But anyway,
Yeah, sorry. Yes, that's probably not true. Go ahead.
anyway, yeah, the Rams really just jumped out to an early lead. And then you see the Cowboys did make a game of it, came within one score. But the thing was, the Rams kind of pulled away quick enough and got the stops they needed early on in the game.
Yeah.
That the Cowboys, despite what the score says, they were never really in the game.
Yeah, that Rams lead was just comfortable throughout. Like they were able to control the ball so well and run it down the Cowboys' throats, which I was just shocked about. That was the part that I really did not anticipate. I thought this Cowboys linebacking crew was for real, and they just completely proved me wrong. I love what they're building in Leighton Vander Esch and Jalen Smith, but the fact that they allowed 123 from C.J. Anderson and 115 from Todd Gurley is just mind-boggling.
Yeah, I wouldn't try and say when you're going against a guy like Todd Gurley, it becomes much harder to stop a talent like that. But then when you give up another 120 to C.J. Anderson, who, shout out to him. They brought him off the street a couple days before Week 17, and here he is rushing for 100 yards and a score in a playoff game. So that's incredible. And but you still, as an elite unit like the Cowboys are starting to form, you cannot allow that in the playoffs to a guy who, walked in 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
3 weeks ago.
like
now.
you said, literally off the street. Guy been cut by 2 different teams this season. And C.J. Anderson just exploited every single one of their weaknesses. And I think to me it sparks an interesting conversation about what the value of a running back in a great offensive system. I mean, if you're able to put up 123 yards with a guy you just signed, a guy who is sitting on his couch, where does the value really lie in a player like Todd Gurley? Like, yeah, Todd Gurley's fantastic, and yeah, he's probably worth all that money, but is he? Is in the grand scheme of things, if you can get a player for the minimum who's going to provide almost the same level of production, at what point do you say there are no exceptions? We are not going to pay for running backs.
Yeah, I am still in the camp that there are, certain guys. There's definitely like less than 10 of them, maybe even 5 or fewer, that they can change the entire game as a running back. I think Todd Gurley is one of those, and I don't think C.J. Anderson is. You don't set your game plan around stopping C.J. Anderson. You do around stopping Todd Gurley or, Le'Veon Bell, potentially. I'm not sure. A guy like Saquon Barkley, we saw this year, how he is able to take control of a game with his legs. I think that's where the value lies, and I think there are very few of those running backs. So I totally get the argument that, there's not a lot of value at that position, but there is only value in a very select amount. The rest you can use interchangeably. I mean, look at like Kalen Ballage and Kenyon Drake and Frank Gore this year in Miami. I know Gore took a bulk of the carries, but it just seemed like they all performed at similar levels just based on how many times they touched the ball.
Yeah, I think that was I think we can go around the league with these kind of these duos or trios of running backs that all have similar, like you said in Miami, like where it really is just a lot of the situation where what time of game you're getting put in, what type of packages you're trotting out there with. Like there's so many things that are out of a running back's control that seeing somebody like C.J. Anderson put up 123 yards to me just further compels me to the idea that no running back is worth the big money. Is that it's all schematics. It's all about putting your offensive line in the best possible situations to get holes. Because I don't know, we saw it in Pittsburgh. It felt like this year that we thought there was going to be a massive drop off in the run game, and James Conner steps in as an unheralded rookie and does better than Bell, does better than what Le'Veon was producing, puts up bigger numbers.
Yep.
And so it's hard. Phillip Lindsay in Denver is just another one. Like it feels like we can find running backs just anywhere now. Yeah, and I don't know. It gets harder and harder to me to justify paying the big bucks for a running back.
I'm not going to agree with you, but I also do not disagree.
So really impressive showing from the Rams' running game. The Rams' passing attack, on the other hand, to me did not seem super impressive. Jared Goff with a very pedestrian 15 for 28, 186, no scores, no interceptions.
Yeah, what happened to Goff during the bye week?
What happened to Goff during the bye week? What happened to Goff when he lost Cooper Kupp? These are some strange questions surrounding this Rams team. They escaped with a victory and a relatively convincing one, but this team just does not look the same since what we saw week 4 or 5. That Chiefs 54-51 matchup against the Rams seems eons ago.
Yeah, but it was week 11.
Exactly. And so it seems like 2 different seasons almost for this Rams team.
Yeah, it's sorry, Josh, go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, a few weeks ago, I was watching the Eagles play the Rams, and I think Al Michaels brought up a really good point on the broadcast. He said that the Rams earlier in the season, even up until week 11, week 12, teams were letting them get away with those big plays. They were able to pull off those big plays, but at some point between week 11 and now, teams are like, okay, we're not going to let the Rams get big plays, and the Rams are getting frustrated offensively. They want to get those big plays. They want to see those results. That's how they know their offensive system is working. And when defenses are giving them these ticky-tacky passes, they're getting frustrated. They're like, we want to get these big explosive plays. That's not happening.
I think that's a really good point Josh brought up. I can definitely see the frustration in Jared Goff to the point where it looks like he's just forcing a lot of throws that aren't there in hopes that they'll work out.
Yeah.
Trying to get that explosive play that Josh is talking about.
I think that's spot on. I think forcing's the perfect word. I think the holes are just not there like they used to be. I think whether it's schematically defenses are catching on or there's less respect for the passing game as a whole or whatever it is, the openings are not there like they were earlier in the season for Goff, and that's really a struggle. Because like we saw his rookie year, I'm still in the camp, this is not someone with a whole lot of natural talent. Yes, he's good, and yes, he's solid, yes, he deserves to be in the NFL as a starting quarterback, but
where does he rank among, guys like Mahomes or Wentz?
Exactly.
Even what I saw out of Dak Prescott in the back half of the season, he looked in a lot of ways better than Jared Goff did.
They don't look unsimilar. If I'm lining up all 32 starting quarterbacks, then I don't know where Jared Goff lies. I'm not sure if he's in the top 15, top 16.
Yeah, maybe he scrapes that top half for me, but I don't know. Anyway, anything else you wanted to add on about the Cowboys-Rams? Maybe, what do you think the Cowboys are going to look like moving forward? We did this with the Colts. Might as well hit on Dallas as well.
Cowboys are going to be real interesting just because they have Jason Garrett coming up. The end of his contract is near. Dak Prescott is in need of an extension. So they're kind of there's a thought that if based on this playoff success, this is kind of the group they're locking in. This is kind of the group they're going to ride with going forward. And I'm not sure this is a Super Bowl core. I think they have a lot of really nice pieces. I think Dak is solid. I think Dak might be a little underrated. If among NFL minds, I think there's a lot of skepticism about what he does poorly. And while I agree with that, I still think he does enough things well that you can craft an offense around him.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I will say, though, I don't think the person to do that is Jason Garrett.
No.
Which is why, as an Eagles fan, I am very happy to hear that the Cowboys are thinking about signing Jason Garrett to a 5-year deal. That is just music to my ears.
Honestly, I think that's music to an Eagles or anyone in that division. I mean...
Yeah.
If you hate the Cowboys, then that's...
Then seeing Jason Garrett there longer is certainly what you're hoping
There was
for.
a point this season where Ezekiel Elliott had 16 touches.
Yeah, that's not the ideal recipe. I'm curious how much of that lies with somebody like Scott Linehan, their offensive coordinator. I'm curious how they address that going forward, because there are certainly keys here. There are certainly talents in this offense that, when used correctly, could be really exciting. And while I'm not a huge fan of Garrett as a whole, if he's able to put good people in place that are able to craft kind of creative schemes, I'm all for it.
Yeah, if he can assemble the right staff, I think they're looking good.
Exactly.
It just seems like Jason Garrett is not the best option for Dak Prescott or that team. But if he can make himself that by bringing in the right people, then, good for him.
But you know who he is the right option for, and that's Jerry Jones, because clearly there has been some unbinding loyalty that Jerry Jones has to to Jason Garrett to keep him around this long. And I honestly do think it has a lot to do with the fact that he's not going to stand up to it. Like that, Jason Garrett's not going to stand up to Jerry Jones.
Yeah,
like
you have a guy like Bill Parcells.
Exactly.
Bill Parcells wants control of his players, and I don't think that's something Jason Garrett is getting.
No, yeah, I just don't think that's something Jerry Jones is willing to give up.
Yeah.
And so when he keeps somebody like Jason Garrett in the fold, it's because
he's just kind of there.
He's there, and he's a bright mind, and he's insightful and all these things. But he's never gonna step on Jerry Jones' toes. I don't think he's ever really gonna like contradict him or try and go at him. Like he's a very docile figure, I feel like, and for Jerry, that's exactly what he's looking for.
What did Jason Garrett say when Jerry had Johnny Manziel's draft card in his hands?
I think he knew the pick was wrong, I feel like, but he didn't have the huevos to say something. It took what's the kid's name?
Stephen Jones.
Stephen Jones took Stephen Jones.
Stephen Jones
to rip it out of his car, rip it out of his hand.
Yeah.
I think that's an iconic story. I think that's phenomenal.
Yeah.
In so many different ways. Just like the ripples in which that would change NFL history. Because
yeah.
I mean they probably don't get Dak, like Zach Martin goes somewher else. I don't know. Just Johnny Manziel and the Cowboys, that's intoxicating.
That would have made me so happy.
That would have been incredible. But alas, it's not to be. But yeah, so any other big thoughts on Cowboys Rams, where either of these teams stack up going forward?
Yeah, I think the Cowboys definitely have somewhat of a bright future. I think if the Giants can find someone that isn't Eli Manning to play quarterback, they might be somewhat of a competition along with them and the Eagles. But like I said, the Colts have to hang with the Texans in the South. I still think a lot of the NFC East is going to be, keeping pace with the Eagles.
And don't forget about the Redskins. They were leading that division at 6-3 up until Alex Smith just destroyed his ankle, and then Colt McCoy destroyed his ankle, and then
Sanchez.
Exactly. They went to Mark Sanchez, and their season went bad. But before then, the Redskins were looking like a good team, and they lost most of their offensive line.
I still think Dallas at this point is probably a little better, but that is a good point you brought up, that the Redskins were in control of that division before Alex Smith got hurt, and the Cowboys just had an awesome second half.
We were basically penciling the Redskins in the playoffs. Like
we went through this and we're like, they might win 12 games, and here they are at 7. So
I mean, I think we're all better for it. I don't think anyone wants to see a Redskins team in the playoffs, but
not this one at least.
Yeah, I think the Cowboys I think are going to be fine. I love what they've done defensively. I think they have some real pieces over there. Some between Byron Jones and DeMarcus Lawrence and Leighton Vander Esch and Jalen Smith, they have some freaking ballers. I love a lot of what they've composed. I mean, Byron Smith to me is Byron Jones, is the NFL's most improved player. Like the fact that he switched from safety to corner and excelled this quickly has been otherworldly. But we'll do an awards pod at some point.
Yeah, at some point, probably after the Super Bowl.
Cool. Yeah, we can definitely knock that out.
Yeah.
Moving on to the Sunday games. We can start with the you're right. This was the least captivating of the three. The New England Patriots absolute beatdown of the San Diego / Los Angeles Chargers, 48-21. And that's not indicative of how much of a blowout this game was.
Yeah, I think that this is definitely a game where the score is a little closer than the game actually was. What was it, 41-7 or 41-14 at one point, or 35-7?
There we go.
Yeah, when you're doing that in the playoffs, there's no coming back from it. I think this is a moderate choke job by the Chargers. They were definitely fatigued though, having to fly to Baltimore, and then they went home and then went back to Foxborough. That is a lot, and that can definitely tire some guys out. I did not anticipate this type of performance from either team.
Yeah. As someone who really loved the Chargers this year, this was a real fun Chargers year. This was a crappy way for it to go out. The idea that the Patriots would score on their 4 opening drives, all touchdowns. The idea that Tom Brady would look like freaking Tom Brady, but something different. The idea that Sony Michel would rush for, what did he finish with, 129 and 3 touchdowns was conceivable to me. All of these things were conceivable, but I just didn't think it was going to happen, and they came out like freaking gangbusters from the jump. the Patriots, when the Patriots won the toss and elected to receive, I was thinking, that's kind of strange. Maybe that's a interesting move from Belichick.
But they knew exactly what they were doing.
And they just marched from the freaking first snap. They could not be stopped. I mean, the Chargers were content to sit back in zone, similar to the Colts, and kind of let Tom Brady pick them apart, and that's exactly what he did. I think he probably threw 3 passes past the first down marker in those opening drives, but it didn't matter whether it was a 7-yard out to Julian Edelman or a 4-yard dump off to James White. Like the Chargers just could not get a stop, and the Patriots were the freaking Patriots. They dinked and dunked their way to 41 freaking points.
Yeah, the performance the Patriots put on against the Chargers, a very good Chargers team, and the Patriots just looked like, I don't know, like that 07 team where they just walked all over everyone they played, and definitely would give me some concern if I'm a Chiefs fan.
Oh my God, if I'm a Chiefs fan, I'm shitting my pants because this is a solid Chargers defense. Any team that gives up 41, I'm no longer going to call them great, but this is a really talented Chargers unit that just ran into the worst possible team for them. I mean, James White with 15 receptions from the running back position, that's ridiculous. Like that's a clear indication that we have a plan on getting 1 to 2 people the ball. I mean, James White 19 catches for 97 yards, Julian Edelman 9 receptions for 151. I mean, there was nothing the Chargers could do. They were outclassed, outcoached, outmaneuvered, out everything. Belichick came into this game with a very clear plan of what he wanted to do and executed it to perfection, and then there just wasn't anything the Chargers could do.
I think the Patriots definitely way over prepared in a good way. So like if they knew what they were doing from the start, like you said, and I think the Chargers, at least defensively, did not prepare enough.
Yeah. Last in the wild card round against the Ravens, there was a big hullabaloo about Chargers' defensive versatility and the changes they had made, and they went to 7 defensive backs, something they hadn't done all year, and just universally they were praised for their flexibility and ability to think on the fly. And then they just came to New England with the same exact game plan. They're like, it worked last week, we're going to do it now. And that's just against the inherent concept of
you have
NFL football.
Lamar Jackson and Tom Brady. Those are 2 very different quarterbacks.
Yeah.
So what you're going to do to stop one, but there's a very strong chance it doesn't work against the other.
Yeah. The unfortunate thing is I'm just not really sure what the Chargers could have done like that. The 7 DB lineup was born out of necessity when Jatavis Brown, the Chargers starting middle linebacker, went down, because they had just no talent at the linebacker position, and that was evident from the jump on Sunday when the Patriots decided to commit to the run and really just started banging Stoney Michel right up the gut, right behind David Andrews. They were just unstoppable. There's nothing those Chargers DBs could do.
Once they punched through that initial hole,
it was over.
There's not a lot of stopping.
It was over. As talented as players like Derwin James and Julie Ladai are, they're still safeties, and
your safety shouldn't be making all the tackles on run plays.
Exactly, and that's just a poor recipe for success. And while I sung the praises of Anthony Lynn, and I guess it wasn't on this podcast, it was just in my head. I loved what Anthony Lynn did last week in the wild card round. I thought he was schematically just 2 steps ahead of where the Ravens were. I thought it was a really well-crafted game plan and just really what I wanted to see, and gave me some real faith coming into this New England game that this was a coaching staff I could have faith in, that they would try something innovative and new. And like I said, that just wasn't there.
Yeah, you have
Jacob. I remember after the wild card game, you said you'd rather go to Foxborough than into Kansas City. Is that still true after this game?
Oh, I still stand by that, but this was the Patriots of old. This was the Patriots of absolute domination, and it kind of feeds into the idea that maybe they just don't give a crap about the regular season. They know that their division's so pathetic that they're going to win every year.
They can just get in, yeah.
Exactly.
The Warriors of the NFL.
Exactly. To a certain extent. They don't need to care about the regular season. And as long as Brady's healthy and their defense is all right.
Yeah, worst case scenario for them is they have to go on a 4-game winning streak in January.
I mean, that's the thing. It's not even like the possibility of them not getting a first round bye is
It just seems
unheard of.
outrageous. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not. It's out of the realm of possibilities. Even when we think that this is the least talented Patriots squad of the Brady Belichick era, they are still able to finagle their way into one of the two byes, and that's just such an advantage. I think the massive talking point, the defining thought of this weekend was the idea that nobody who plays a road game makes a Super Bowl. No team who has had to play a road game has made the Super Bowl since 2012, and that rang true again this week.
Yep.
Do you think it says more about how good Belichick is as a coach in preparing his teams for each season and the grind of an NFL season? Or do you think the Patriots' recent success, or I guess long-term success, has said more about just the AFC as a conference? And I'm asking you guys as two fans of AFC teams, because as an NFC fan, I don't pay a ton of attention until the playoffs, but I'm just asking your opinion.
I don't know. I think the Patriots are consistently more or less a lock to win 5 divisional games a year. So I don't know. It's just it's hard to tell. I think you have a guy like Belichick, who's obviously the most successful coach in history, and then it just once you start, there's no really stopping him. It's like a runaway train or something. It's just impossible to slow down.
Yeah. I wasn't alive for Vince Lombardi or Bill Walsh, so I can say with pretty much certainty that Bill Belichick's far and away the best coach I've ever seen in my life. His ability to just manipulate any sort of coverage, any sort of schematic thought by either he's honed his craft as a defensive wizard, like that's well known, but like the things he can do offensively are still just baffling to me. The control he has over opposing defenses and just the grasp of what his team does well, I think is unparalleled in NFL history. Like I think he just has such a good idea of what his team does well, what works against specific defenses and specific personnel groupings, that it's so difficult to beat this Patriots team as currently constructed. When you have to go into Foxborough, it's your chances, you have to be perfect. You have to be absolutely perfect, and even then it might not be enough.
Yeah, I don't know. The last bad loss in Foxborough I can really think about for the Patriots is like the Wildcat game in 2008.
I mean, the Ravens. I'd say the Ravens,
yeah,
and the Joe Flacco run to me is.
Yeah.
But sure, the Wildcat game's up there for.
I don't know. They don't lose at home.
No, exactly. They just don't lose at home.
So it's 5 divisional games plus their home games. That's a lot of games to kind of just pencil in as wins.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the reality of the Patriots right now. I think it just you can pencil them in, like you said, for 5 divisional games. I think they're going to go. The idea of them losing more than 3 games at home is functionally impossible.
That's at least 10 right there.
And so yeah, when you put it all together, yeah, this is a consistent double-digit win. I mean, what is it? It's 13 first-round buys for Tom Brady, something ridiculous like that.
Yeah.
15, like that's just unheard of.
Yeah.
I saw this that he has won more playoff games today than any other quarterback has appeared in. Like he's just this is. I mean, it's an understatement to call him the defining force of our generation because it goes way beyond that. He has transcended football trends. He has transcended football thinking. Like he has survived. He has gone from a ground and pound era to a air it out era seamlessly. He has transitioned seamlessly. It's baffling and it's awe-inspiring. And when your team goes against it in the playoffs, it is soul crushing and makes you want to jump off your 8-story balcony.
Unless you're the Eagles, apparently,
or the Giants. Unless you're a team from the NFC East.
Apparently. So yeah. Personally, super disappointing game on that one, but just another example of this Patriots dominance. And like we said 20 minutes ago, the 4 best teams are remaining.
Yep.
As much as a Chargers conference championship game berth would have been amazing personally, we are left with the 4 best teams.
Yep. So moving forward, Chargers, what do you think?
I mean, it all depends on Phillip Rivers. It all depends on how long you have with this quarterback playing at this level. Because as long as you have a Hall of Fame player playing up to his standards, you have a championship contending window. Like they have this is the best drafting they have ever done. The team they have built around Philip Rivers is debatably their most talented. Not debatably, it's certainly the most talented since 07, 08. And there's no conceivable reason why that won't be the same next year. If Philip, like I said, if Philip Rivers is playing up to his standards, there's no reason why the Chargers can't be back in this game next year. Derwin James is everything I thought he would be and more. He has been just outstanding. Desmond King took a massive step this year. Adrian Phillips made his first All-Pro team. Like that's a fantastic contributor. There are clear holes littered around this roster. Most notably to me, interior pass rush, interior presence. As inspiring as Brandon Meebane's story was this past weekend, he is no longer a positive contributor to me. I think there's been big steps from players like Darius Philon and Isaac Rochelle, but they still need that dominant interior presence that might be really hard to get towards the later end of the first round. So I think I don't want to say that this Chargers team has reached its potential, but it would take another really impressive draft class from them to take that next step to truly break into the NFL's elite. And one final point on the Chargers that I just want to get in writing somewhere in podcast form. Forrest Lamp was considered one of the best guards in the draft 2 years ago, wildly out of Western Kentucky, if my memory serves me correctly. And lauded as just one of the more crisper, one of the more NFL ready offensive line prospects. Fell to pick, I want to say 35 for the Chargers, 36, and it was fantastic value. Tore his ACL in rookie minicamp, missed all of his rookie season, and there was a thought that sophomore year that he was going to just slide into the Chargers offensive line unit, and beginning of the year there was thought, oh, okay, it's taking his time, he'll get some snaps, so work his way in there. And then as the season progressed, his snap count just went lower and lower until towards the end he was just healthy scratches. And to me, that is a super disappointing value to get out of somebody you thought was going to be a mainstay for your franchise for years to come. This was looked at one of the best steals in the draft, and you can't even suit him up for your most important game of the season. So I'm really concerned with how that's looking. Yeah. And I would love some more answers on that.
Jacob, I want to give you props for remembering that Forrest Lamp was a Western Kentucky Hilltopper. So
thank you, I appreciate
props
that.
Props for remembering that one.
But yeah, so I'm really concerned about that one. I would love to see, because I think he's a fantastic talent, so I'd love to see him get on the field more. Clearly there's some reason why he's not, but I don't know. I just needed to vent about that. As Michael Schofield got burned time and time again on Sunday, I had to think to myself, where is Forrest Lamp?
I understand the frustrations of an underperforming offensive line.
Yeah.
I guess we can move into our final game of the divisional round now. The Saints knocking off the Eagles 20-14, scoring 20 unanswered. I keep forgetting that this game was 14-0 at one point, but
it was.
Somehow I never really thought the Eagles were in control.
Yeah, so when they jumped out to that 14-0 lead, I'm thinking, oh man, we're gonna get a shootout. We're gonna get an all-time Breeze game. We're gonna get some crazy stuff's about to go down. Like Big Dick Nick's about to whip out his massive schlong, and we're gonna see some points. And then I was very wrong. Nothing. It was a very pedestrian rest of the game. Like the defense has really stepped up. Marshawn Lattimore to me was kind of the defining player of that game. Like I said, what I thought was gonna be this offensive shootout was defined by the Saints defense and their ability to get stops over and over again.
Yep, including at the most crucial point in the game.
Yeah.
Had that pick on the tipped ball by Alshon Jeffrey, and that ended it. That was potential game-winning drive there. So,
when Lutz missed that field goal so there's like 4 something left now at this point.
Yeah. And
they have about 70-odd yards to go, 60-odd yards to go. I
kind of penciled in the Eagles.
Yeah, exactly. I'm Big Dick Nick doing it again. I thought, holy crap, he is really about to drive down the field and beat the Saints in the Superdome with a last-second touchdown to put them up. I was like, this is just lining up too perfectly. This just makes too much sense. And then Alshon Jeffrey with the drop of his lifetime.
I think the bigger issue, this is kind of like a microcosm of the Eagles season. I don't know how much Eagles football you guys watched. Obviously, I'm an Eagles fan, so I just watch more NFC East, which is why I was able to talk more about the Cowboys. And the Eagles as a whole. But yeah, this has been their season. Their season has been the defense playing very close to like out of their mind, and just holding other teams to like 20, 25 points a game, and the offense kind of just topping out at like just under that, like 14 points, 17 points, 18 points. And I think that although the Eagles' struggles in the secondary have been well documented and make sense because of all the injuries they suffered there, I think that the Eagles at the bottom line, the Eagles' offense has not been as good as it was last year. And that's what cost them the game, because you cannot expect to score 14 points and beat the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, I think you're 100% right. If you had told me coming in this game that the Eagles defense held the Saints to 20 points, I would have said, yeah.
Yeah, they probably won.
Yeah, Eagles championship game bound. Like I would have felt real confident about that. Like this that like I said, this is the defining quality of this game was the Saints defense. I did not think the Saints defense had this in them to put together this complete a performance after two just brutal drives to open the game.
Yeah.
They were locked in, and it was really impressive.
I think I spoke about this to our friend Jeff, and I said, so Nick Foles, he drove the Eagles down the field after the first play interception by Drew Brees. Then the Eagles defense came up with a stop. Nick Foles drove them down the field again. It's 14-0. Eagles come up with a third stop. Nick Foles is driving the team down the field, and he underthrows a ball to Zach Ertz. And Zach Ertz kind of just reaches for the ball instead of trying to knock it out of the cornerback's hands. And I'm not going to say that's Zach Ertz's fault. Like, it's a split-second decision. So Nick Foles gets picked off. And after that pick, the Eagles' offense just kind of fell apart. And it's like they were playing with no confidence. It's like they didn't think they could score against this Saints defense after that one interception. And I think the Saints defense, just credit to the Saints defense, they rode that momentum throughout the game.
Yeah, they were certainly feeding off that electric crowd. It really was from that moment on kind of the performance I expected from the Saints, maybe a little more high scoring, but just a really complete team. Drew Brees, it felt like had complete control of that offense from the jump. Michael Thomas played out of his mind again. Any conversation now with best wide receiver in the league has to include him, right?
Oh, for sure. I would still argue for DeAndre Hopkins, but
okay.
Michael Thomas is definitely in the conversation.
I couldn't agree more. It's fascinating to me because if we had this conversation this time last year, Antonio Brown, clear cut, no real doubt about it. And now to me, he's not in my top 2. He might not be in my top 3. Like I might slide Julio above him. Like I agree with you that DeAndre Hopkins and Michael Thomas are clear 1A, 1B to me.
Yeah, it was I think Peter King who said like I didn't put Antonio Brown in my All-Pro. He's not even a top 20 receiver. And that was just like insane to me.
It's insane, but is it? Like
I don't know.
In a similar way to how we talk about running backs, I'm curious if there are a couple transcendent skills that you need, and it just kind of once you get a couple of those down, it's kind of that's the wrap. But when I think what separates somebody like Michael Thomas or DeAndre Hopkins from a player like Antonio Brown is just what they're able to do physically. I mean, we'll talk more about Michael Thomas because he's in this game, but like the separation he was able to get and just his ability to be open, it felt like all the time. It felt like every time Drew Brees was targeting Michael Thomas, there was no defender within 5 yards of him. And he was constantly able to find holes in the Eagles secondary, and he could go up and get any ball, and it's a truly it's as close as we have as to an unstoppable force in this league right now.
I agree with you. I think a lot of what we saw had less to do with Drew Brees making the throws and more to do with just Michael Thomas getting open.
Yeah, I can get behind that. I mean, he's a phenomenal route runner. He uses his body exceptionally well. He is just a complete package when it comes to receivers.
I mean, Brees is still freaking awesome. Just in this particular 4 quarters of football, it seemed like Thomas really took advantage of the Eagles secondary and allowed Brees to make easier throws.
Oh, no doubt. Yeah, in my mind, I'm not remembering a whole lot of like super tight windows that Brees had to throw to when he was targeting Thomas. Like it definitely felt like Thomas was able to do whatever he wanted, and he was just dominant as dominant as a wide receiver can be, and he kind of single-handedly changed the course of this Saints offense.
Yep. I think the Eagles too. Once they got out to that lead, definitely got a little too conservative for those middle two quarters. It was a lot of like ground and pound, dink and dunk, because they were getting the stops, and then so I guess offense kind of took a back seat, and it came back to hurt them.
Yeah,
More than they had anticipated.
Yeah, I can get behind that. They'd never really established a run game. Wendell Smallwood was their leading carrier with 10 carries for 33 yards. So that's not the production you're looking for. I mean, that's a clear area of concern if you're the Eagles. And so, yeah, their offense just wasn't up to the task. Unfortunately, as encouraging as those two opening drives were, they just were never able to really cash in after that. And as inspiring as this run was, and I truly believe even now, if they were playing the Rams this week, they would have won. I think.
Yeah.
I think
they beat the Rams already with Nick Foles.
Exactly. That's
in
why.
Los Angeles.
That's why I would have said it. So, I think this Eagles team was one win away from the Super Bowl if they had knocked off the Saints team, but alas, it wasn't to be. I think Nick Foles had finally met his match.
And I mean, it did come out after the game that Alshon Jeffrey was playing with cracked ribs. So I understand the drop a little bit more, because it's really tough to reach up when your ribs are cracked, I would imagine.
You can talk to me when he plays on a torn ACL in the second half of the divisional round, and then again in the AFC Championship.
Yeah, you already know. Phil Rivers,
Yeah.
hardest, whatchamacallit, gutsiest player in the league.
Yeah. No. Of course, the cracked ribs definitely hamper your performance, and we wish the best for Alshon Jeffrey.
Oh, of course. I mean, he had a phenomenal game. He
Yeah,
led
yeah.
the team in receiving. They wouldn't have got to where they were without him. So, to pin the loss on him is silly. But yes, the lack of pop in that Eagles offense, the lack of spark, was apparent throughout, and they really did lack those electric players who, with the ball in their hands, could make things happen. I think that's the clear. If you're an Eagles fan going into this offseason, what are you looking for from this team? It's electricity. It's players who can really ignite an offense when there's nothing around them. Because right now on this Eagles team, they're severely lacking in playmakers to me.
They need to go and find themselves like a Philip Lindsay or a James Conner, and someone who can move the ball.
Yeah,
On the ground.
I think that'd be huge.
Like a great value pick who's super talented. I think that's what the Eagles need right now.
I think that'd be incredibly helpful. I think another wide receiver would be really. I mean, Golden Tate has not panned out in the way I think they thought he would, and so seeing him walk in free agency and then picking up someone else, picking up a more electric player with the ball in his hands, like what they thought Golden Tate was going to be, and he just never was for them.
Yep.
Jacob, I have a question for you.
Lay it on me, Josh.
And you too, Sharp. But Jacob likes to do these who says no questions to us a lot, and then proposes a trade. So I have a trade for you.
Ooh, I like it.
Eagles pick up the Foles option, and then they propose a trade to the Steelers. Antonio Brown for Nick Foles.
Wow.
Who says no?
I'm feeling like the Steelers say
The
no.
team that has Ben Roethlisberger.
I mean, sure, but how old is Roethlisberger, right? 38?
Yeah, definitely old. But Nick Foles is no spring chicken himself, so
He's 29.
yeah, exactly. So, I mean, I think hopefully if they were trading Antonio Brown, they'd get slightly more long-term value than Nick Foles, while enticing. I would have to think the Steelers would say no on that one. What do you think?
I wouldn't agree with that.
Someone like Antonio Brown though, like no duh, someone like Antonio Brown would help the Eagles offense. But I'm curious just how willing they'd be to part with something like their first round pick this year and a third next year, something like that.
For a quarterback, when you have a quarterback, unless he retires, which came up a little bit during the season.
Oh, you mean Big Ben? I meant Eagles trading for Antonio Brown. Like, what would they be willing to give up for Antonio Brown? Yeah. I'd be very curious to that because not to get too off track, but I'm fascinated by the Antonio Brown trade market. I did not think he would command a first round pick. I just didn't think some team would be willing to give it up.
I still think there's a strong chance San Fran gives up that second overall pick for him.
That would be absolutely nutty to me. But yeah, you're right. Those are the conversations being had.
That's crazy because the Steelers are at the disadvantage here. Everyone knows Antonio Brown doesn't want to play for the Steelers, and Le'Veon Bell just proved you can sit out a full season and still have some value.
That's the thing. He has yet to prove that. He has he sat out the season, but we have yet to see the contract he's going to get. Like the Le'Veon Bell experiment is inconclusive to me. Like, I'm very curious to see what Le'Veon Bell commands on the open market.
Well, he still would have got what he wanted. He wanted to be a free agent, and now he's going to be a free agent.
Yes, definitely, but that came at a price. That came at an unknowable price, just because of what he sacked. Well, I take that back. It was a slightly knowable price because he lost all of the money from this year, and he's banking on that'll make that back in free agency. And so we'll never know what would have happened if he had played this year and then entered free agency and what kind of contract he would have gotten. But I think a lot will be determined by who is willing to shell out the big bucks for Le'Veon this season and how big a contract they're willing to give him in the offseason. Because if he's able to recoup all of the money he lost and he's able to cash in and get that gargantuan contract, then yeah, there's no reason why a player who is unhappy with their contract situation should play for a team they don't want to. But if Le'Veon, if the offers are lacking for Le'Veon, and he has to do something like a 1 or 2 year deal where he's not getting the guaranteed money, where he's not getting the security, then that decision looks historically bad to sit out.
Yep, that's honestly kind of what I see happening. He gets a 1 or 2 year deal for not a whole bunch of money.
Interesting.
But anyway, there are some conference championship games this weekend.
Yeah.
Rams Saints kick off at 1:05 Eastern. Oh no,
No,
that's our time. So 3:05 Eastern. What do you think of this one?
No, I can't wait. That's going to be a fantastic game. Rematch of what we saw a couple weeks ago with the Rams traveling into New Orleans. Did you see what Marcus Peters said to Sean Payton? No.
No, I did not.
So immediately after the game or something along that, Sean Payton alluded to the idea that, no, I take that back. After the Saints defeated the Rams initially, Sean Payton alluded to the fact that Marcus Peters was the player they were trying to pick on. Marcus Peters was the matchup they were really looking for.
Yeah.
And so someone brought that up again right after the Rams win this past weekend, and he was like, "Sean Payton, keep talking that shit. Keep spouting off because we'll be there." And I'm hyped. I can't wait. I am all for contentious Rams. I'm all for an Aaron Donald game, a Ndamukong Suh game. Like, I think there's so much talent on this Rams defense that just assuming that this is going to be a shootout is ill-advised.
Yep. I think it's really hard to beat the same team twice as well. It just happened to the Ravens. They beat the Chargers, and then 2 weeks later they lost. Something that's hard to do.
No doubt. I think it's incredibly hard to do. And yeah, I think not the only advantage, but I honestly think the biggest advantage the Rams have is at the head coaching position. I think Sean McVay is not light years. Light years would be a discredit to what Sean Payton has done, but significantly further ahead schematically than Sean Payton is. And I'm very curious if can Sean McVay with less talent at the most important position, especially quarterback, he has significantly less talent. And I think across the board he has less talent, but especially quarterback. How can he out-scheme Sean Payton? Can he lead this team to victory? Can he schematically just out-duel a superior team and lead his team to the Super Bowl? That will be the fascinating question I want to know.
This seems like it could be a lot like the Rams-Chiefs game to me, maybe a little bit lower scoring.
Oh, okay.
But you just have two high-powered offenses, and they're going at it. I think the Rams' defense is how they win this game, though. I think it has a lot to do with how McVay schemes, because obviously if they're not going to score points, then you don't win. That's how football works, in case you didn't know. But I think their ability to stop Drew Brees, I think it's a lot like we talked about with the Chiefs, where they get those 2 or 3 stops and then capitalize on those. And at that point, they're far enough ahead that they still have to keep playing at a high level, but it gets harder for these Saints to come back.
Oh yeah, no doubt. So it kind of sounds like you're leaning Rams on this one.
I will explain. I am leaning Rams. That is because my preseason Super Bowl pick was Rams-Patriots.
Wow.
And for continuity's sake, that's who I'm sticking with this weekend.
Good for you. That's impressive. Oh my God, I don't even want to talk about my preseason. Texans-Packers, baby. Riding that, sticking with that one. No. Yeah, I think Rams-Saints is going to be a fantastic game. I cannot wait for that. I'm against you on this one, though. I think the Saints win this one. I think they kind of win this one convincingly. I think while the Rams defense is talented. I love how the Saints defense is playing right now. Marshawn Lattimore's playing out of his mind. Eli Apple looks like an incredibly savvy midseason pickup. I really like just everything they're doing. Alex Anzalone.
Wyomissing High School.
Exactly.
Fun fact, he pretty much single-handedly destroyed my high school's football team in the state playoffs.
Really?
When we were freshmen in high school, yeah.
What position did he play offensively? Was he a running back?
Yeah.
Then? Okay, that's fine. That makes sense. Yeah. So, yeah, I can see Alex Anzalone messing up some white kids in rural Pennsylvania.
He ain't done nothing. And then just, that's not how all people talk in Danville. Anyway, it's cool to see a Central Pennsylvania guy though tearing it up in the NFL.
It is, and he really is tearing up. He is one of those central forces on this Saints kind of rejuvenated Saints defense. So I kind of like the Saints in this one. I think just the Superdome is just too difficult a place to win. I think this is a really well-rounded Saints team, and while, like I said, I think the advantage for the Rams lies in their head coaching, I think the Saints have advantages in every other facet. I like their weapons more. I like their quarterback more. I think their defense is more complete. And to me, that the scale is too tipped in far New Orleans.
I agree. The scale is probably tipped in New Orleans. I don't know if it's as far as you said it was. I think the Saints have a very strong chance at winning this game, and I will not be shocked at all if they do. But I really want my Super Bowl pick to come through, and I think there's still a good enough chance that the Rams win this game that I'm pretty confident in making that pick. So
I mean, if Gurley and Anderson did what they did last week, I mean, what they did to a Dallas Cowboys defense that shut down the Saints was unprecedented for what we've seen from Dallas this year, and their ability to just control the game from their running game is kind of impervious to great quarterbacks, to great defenses. Like if you're able to control the clock, control the time of possession that drastically with being so effective running the ball, I mean, all bets are off the table. I think regardless of your advantages, if you have that one key crucial advantage, like, the sky's the limit.
Yep. That control you just talked about, being able to pretty much control every facet of the game, I'd like to use that to transition into the AFC, and that's why I think the Patriots have a real good shot at this. I think if Belichick can draw something up like he did against the Chargers, he'll have to somehow outdo himself, I think, just based on how high-powered this Chiefs team is. But he's already done it once, and it is really hard to beat the same team twice. But I don't know, just after seeing what they did to the Chargers last week, I have a really tough time picking against New England right now.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It is really difficult to pick against the Pats. I mean, they had just... disregarding what we saw last week from it's impossible to disregard, but even taking into mind what we saw last week from the Chiefs defense, in my heart of hearts, I still just can't fathom the idea of Tom Brady and Bill Belichick losing to a defense of this caliber. I think I just believe Tom Brady's going to be able to do whatever he wants on Sunday and check it down, hit those little 7-yard outs, hit that little middle screen to Gronk, whatever he wants to do. The defense is just unable and just lacks the talent, I think, to get meaningful stops. And when the game truly gets in its most crucial, I trust the Patriots and their slightly better defense and Bill Belichick over Andy Reid, Patrick Mahomes, and that crappy defense.
The only thing for me, sorry Josh,
You're good,
that
Brian.
makes this not a lock is the fact that it's in Arrowhead.
Yeah, in Arrowhead's wild. Arrowhead's going to be wild. Have you seen the weather reports?
The Arctic Blast.
Arctic Blast, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I think it's going to be my fantasy football team name next year.
Arctic Blast.
Arctic Blast, yeah. Weather as warm as 5 degrees and as cold as -10 is the latest report I saw.
That just sounds awful.
Exactly, that sounds horrible.
For everyone there.
But as someone who has never experienced that type of weather, I have a hard time putting my finger on how that's going to affect the game. But I can say with almost certainty that it will affect the game in some way.
Yeah, imagine like every time the wind blows, you're just getting stabbed in the face with like little sewing needles.
God,
yeah,
that sounds horrible.
That's pretty much what it feels like, and also it's just things hurt more when you get hit in the cold. Like when you're outside and it's freezing, and like you stub your toe or like you get like punched or something or hit, it just hurts more.
No one wants to tackle. No one wants to get tackled. I feel like it's going to be a lot of carrying the ball out of bounds. It might be a long game just based off how often the clock stops, but if they're smart, they'll go down in bounds and let the clock run.
The other thing that I think we have to really keep our eyes on is how big the shoulders are going to be on Tom Brady's jacket. I think this past Sunday, they were definitely at least double, if not triple the size of what normal shoulders should look like. And I'm interested to see if he goes for quadruple since it is going to be so cold.
Yep, I did point that out during the game. I said, we'll get to see Tom Brady's big jacket on the sideline. And this time he did not disappoint.
Exactly.
Bigger than normal. I like to think about, that reminds me of George Costanza's Gore-Tex jacket.
Yeah.
It's really big.
Yeah.
What's up with your coat? It's Gore-Tex.
Yeah, you are spot on. Tom Brady did not disappoint. He looked like a.
He looks like the robot from Big Hero 6.
He looks like somebody shrunk his head, and he's just a much larger man with a pea-sized head. But yeah, no, coat or no coat, I think this Patriots team's just a little bit too talented. I think there are certainly holes all around the roster, but at the quarterback position, at the head coaching position, and in the secondary, they are rock solid. And in the modern NFL, that might be all you need.
Yeah, if they can stop Mahomes enough, then they shouldn't have any problem winning this game.
I think once. I think if they stop Mahomes once, I think they got it.
So it could be like a 43-40 like it was last time.
Exactly. Yeah. I could see this being very similar to how it played out last time. I think like we were talking about, I think the cold has some effect, so I doubt they get to 83 total points. But yeah, I think this could definitely be a classic who has the ball last.
Yeah. I think you're probably right.
And I can't wait. That's going to be fantastic. That's going to be an amazing game. The storylines are there though for a Chiefs sort of victory.
Absolutely.
This is one of the more underrated, tortured fan bases. Like ever since Montana left, basically, like they have just had no success in the playoffs. And incredibly, this is their first AFC Championship game they're hosting.
Yeah, that's just wild to me.
Yeah, and so like the storylines are there. The passing of the old guard to the new guard. From one generational quarterback to the next. Andy Reid finally breaking through. I don't know. Like I said, the storylines are there, but end of the day, I can't do it. I can't bet against the Pats.
Yeah, that's pretty much where I'm at too. So I've got a Rams-Pats Super Bowl.
I hate to say it, I got a Pats Saints Super Bowl. That's intriguing. What of these four? What is your most desired Super Bowl matchup? What sounds the most fun to you?
I would love a Rams Chiefs Part 2.
Yeah, I'm kind of leaning that way as well. That'd be so much fun. Rams Chiefs would be great. I'm also not opposed to Chiefs Saints though.
Yeah, that also I think would be just a real fun time.
Yeah, I would really enjoy that as well. It's not that I don't want to see the Patriots. It's just I'm done with the Patriots.
Yeah.
We've seen this enough. We've seen this story enough times, but yeah, there are no bad Super Bowl options to me.
The Pro Bowl next weekend. You ready to do our preview for that?
Oh yeah, let's dive right in.
All right, yeah, I got another hour of content coming at you.
Funny little note about the Pro Bowl. Phil Rivers just called out. He said he was injured after not appearing on the injury report once this season. It's incredible that his injury just randomly flared up now that he's no longer playing.
Yeah, I stubbed my toe playing dodgeball with my 9 kids.
Yeah, exactly.
Can't make it, sorry.
I was running full court basketball because it's now 5-on-5 considering I have 9 kids.
Yeah.
And I hurt my elbow, so I'm gonna have to call out sick. But Andrew Luck finally got the Pro Bowl recognition he deserves.
Good for him.
Yes, very good for him. But yeah, so as tempting as that is for us to really dive into the Pro Bowl, I think we can save that for another time.
Yeah, I think that about wraps up this episode of Two Kids in a Trench Coat. Anything else you'd like to add, Josh?
I would like to add that my Super Bowl pick is going against you guys. Well, not against, but it's different. I want to see the Saints run the table. So I have Saints, and I don't want to see the Patriots in the Super Bowl, so Chiefs.
Alrighty.
All right, I like it.
Me too. I would not be disappointed with the Saints-Chiefs Super Bowl.
You got anything else for us, Jacob?
No, I'm excited. This is typically last weekend is the best weekend in football, and that's usually a mantra I can stand behind. Personally, with my team getting absolutely demolished, it wasn't my favorite weekend of the year, but it was a great weekend of football. I think this is going to be another great weekend of football, and yeah, we have 3 games left though, Ryan. We have 3 NFL games left before we have to wait till training camp.
Yeah, that's rough.
That's
at least it's draft season though.
yeah, it's time. We
yeah,
can start
so,
getting into some.
Yeah.
So-
But yeah, it's good to be back here in
Yeah.
the small recording booth with you guys, and thanks for listening. And we'll be back next week after the conference championships.